All right, let's call the very, very special April Fool's Day meeting to order. Personally, my favorite holiday. So on this date, I've been waiting for 11 or 12 years here for this to fall on April Planning Commission meeting fall on. So anything goes tonight, folks from the Ladera over there. Before we first these call to order, and then I'll have an amendment to the agenda. So who's handling the call to order, the roll call?
1 second.
Okay. I just noticed Lindsay wasn't here.
All right. Chairperson Philip Goldstein,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Marty Jost,
Here.
Commissioner Tom Wood, Commissioner Wendy Newland, Commissioner Michael Lowry,
Here.
Alternate Renzo Bianchi,
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Janelle Maines.
Here.
Okay, I'm going to do two things at once, kill two birds with one stone. First of all, I introduce formally our newest commissioner, and it's pronounced Mines. I've been engaged with her in this process for about 10 months now, and she, to her credit, just got around to correcting me. So now that she's appointed, we want to get it correct. It's pronounced Mines. Lindsay, you want to come on here? Yeah, there she is. So Lindsay, for the record, Lindsay filled the alternate seat formerly held by Michael Lowry. Michael Lowry has been elevated to the vacant regular commissioner seat formerly held by Mike Lewis. And at the same time, at last week's council meeting, when Janelle was formally appointed to Planning Commission, Wendy Newland, Tom Wood, and Michael Lowry were appointed to new four-year terms. So we welcome Janelle, and we're throwing her into the fire tonight. So the item number 3, our administrative determination of alternate voting. Janelle will vote tonight, as will Renzo, with the absence of 2 regular commissioners. Next on the agenda is our annual election of officers. Fellow commissioners, Marty and I actually sit before you here. Again, seeking your approval to be your officers for another year. As a couple of you know, we always campaign on a platform, and this year is no exception. So our campaign platform this year is we want to enact a tariff on all goods from Fort Collins. That should be good news to our friends from Ladera. We're going to secure the border with Windsor. And I'm sorry, we're going to cut some staff. And although I understand Greenland is already spoken for, we intend to annex Severance. That's our campaign platform. So with that, unless anybody else has anybody else that is interested in these positions and wants to do this, I would like to nominate as initially as vice chair my colleague here of long standing, Marty Jost. So and that's make a motion by way of a nomination, and I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? And if anybody would like to nominate me, otherwise, we don't have a chair, so.
I'll make the motion that we nominate Phil Goldstein for chairman of the Planning Commission.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I appreciate it. We appreciate it very much.
Really, April 1st, we couldn't have one no vote?
That would have been appropriate, wouldn't it? All right. So with that, we move into general public comment. I don't see anybody here, Lindsay, but this is an opportunity Is there anybody signed up? This is opportunity for somebody to speak on something that is not on the agenda. There will be an opportunity on our two business items, but I presume nobody's signed up for that.
I apologize. I did not collect the sign-in sheet, so I am not sure.
It's all right. Well, you're lucked out because it doesn't appear there's anybody here. Is there anybody? I don't believe so, seeing the usual team and then some here. Okay, we close the general public comment. Item number 5 is the consent agenda, consists only of the approval of the March 18th, 2025 meeting minutes. Commissioner, any additions or corrections to the minutes? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion on the consent agenda? Okay, I have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved and I sign the minutes. All right, our first business item 6A, the Ladera Storage Site Plan. Chad, that's yours.
Thank you, Chairperson and Commissioners. So item 6A is for consideration of a development site plan application for Ladera Storage. The applicant is Vantana Capital, represented by Dalton Horan, and Steve Weens with Stacklot. The owner is Connell LLC. The subject property is Lot 1, Block 2 of the Ladera subdivision second filing, also referred to, one second, I need to share this, my apologies. Thanks, Drew. My apologies. Again, subject property is Lot 1, Block 2 of the Ladera subdivision second filing, which is also referred to as 4882 Weitzel Street. The property is located east of Weitzel Street and south of Harmony Road. The adjacent land uses to this property to the north is a vacant, unincorporated Larimer County parcel within the Sweatsville subdivision. To the south, again, is vacant within Ladera. East is also vacant within the Ladera subdivision, and to the west would be the Costco within the Timnath Gateway South. So a development site plan review aims to align development projects with public improvements in neighboring sites to ensure new development complies with the land use code's development and design standards, avoiding or mitigating any significant adverse impacts. In accordance with Table 2.1 of the Land Use Code, hearing process and notice requirements, development site plans that consist of a single building are reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission, which can approve with conditions or deny the site plan based on the development review criteria. I would also like to note that the use of a storage facility is a conditional use within the underlying zoning district. Conditional uses are determined within our code to have a potential additional impacts on surrounding properties. So I would need to go through review of town council following this meeting tonight for the use itself to ensure that any potential or identified impacts on the surrounding properties could be mitigated with any additional conditions within the code.
Chad, may I interrupt?
Yep.
Well, it's fresh in my, could you, for the sake of our new commissioner and a refresher for the others of us, give us an example of what those impacts could be, something that in this case, whether it's specific to this or other, could you just tell a little bit more about the circumstances of a conditional use?
Yeah, so typically those uses are of higher intensity. So there could be concerns with maybe traffic, sound, lighting, things of that nature that could be identified as a nuisance to adjacent properties. If such, council would have the ability to add conditions to that use, such as maybe screening, lighting hours, things like that, hours of operation, to ensure that all those concerns would be identified within that use.
Okay, commissioners, anything else? Well, okay, Very good. Thanks. I'm sorry to interrupt, but seemed like a
No.
good time to ask.
Of course, yeah. So again, we will be reviewing the site plan. The planning commission will make their determination on the site plan itself. And then following this meeting, we'll move forward for council for the use itself, not for the site plan. And as I mentioned, you will be reviewing it against the criteria for the site plan review criteria. I'm just going to briefly highlight these so that you're aware of these as we go through this application and the following one as well. One being that the proposed site plan complies with all the regulations within the zoning district unless a separate variance has been requested or approved. That the site plan conforms to the character of the area within the same district of which it's located. Again, not having any more adverse effects on health, safety, and welfare to the surrounding properties, no more injurious to the properties in the area than would any other use generally be permitted within that district. Third, that adequate utilities shall be provided. Consistency with the Timnath design criteria manual. The proposed site plan will not substantially impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent properties. And that the site is compliant with the development traffic study or has been submitted an updated traffic study. Pedestrian safety and welfare are protected. And also that the architectural style and design of the project has a few number of criteria that can be reviewed by planning commission. One, that it enhances and complements the neighborhood, makes use of materials and forms that are complementary, avoids box-like appearances, continues all elevations of the architectural character for street-facing elevations, ensures that the physical proportions of the property and the manner of which the project is designed are appropriate, provides sufficient area available for the use of extensive landscaping. And lastly, that there's consistency with the comprehensive plan and other adopted plans. So this is just the criteria that in which you as the commission will be reviewing these items for your approval or such. So just a brief background, the property is zoned regional commercial with a PD overlay, which is in alignment with the comprehensive plan designation for employment regional commercial. The site plan is proposing a 102,503 square foot self-storage facility located on a 1.78 acre site. The Ladera subdivision development overlay amendment number 2, which was approved on January 14th of this year, outlines and entitles the development of this property and the surrounding properties within Ladera. The building is positioned along the southwest portion of the property, set back approximately 39 feet from the roundabout intersection of Weitzel and Sweatsville Zoo Road. The building features a flat roof design with a maximum height of 40 feet, meeting the allowance for the regional commercial zone district. Access to the site is achieved through a one access driveway from Sweatsville Zoo Road along the south of the site. So that would be to the east here on this plan. And then there will be one exit and emergency access provided at Weitzel Street along the west of the site. So this would not be an ingress, just an egress for the site itself. So there's one ingress egress to the east there. The site will be landscaped and will include a trash dumpster inside the building, a drive lane around the north and east sides of the building, and on-site parking for 10 customer cars, including one accessible space and one electric vehicle space. 2 bicycle spaces will also be provided, meeting the requirements of the code. It's important to note that the project utilizes the entitlements set forth in that PD overlay amendment that I mentioned previously, specific to this lot in regard to the floor area ratio and the landscape buffering. Per the overlay, the floor area ratio has been adjusted from 0.5 of the code up to 1.55 with this site and the site utilizing a floor area ratio of 1.43, meeting that requirement. In simple terms, the floor area ratio is a measure of how much of a building could be put on a property. So you would take the total floor area of the building itself and divide it by the area of the site, and that is where you would get that determination or calculation of floor area ratio. In addition to the plan development overlay, it also allows for weathering steel, such as Corten. The building design utilizes a combination of EIFS, stone veneer, and Corten steel paneling, along with spandrel glass that hides the interior elements of the storage facility. The site will be landscaped with a tree lawn wrapping the south and west of the building and a landscape buffer along the north and east of the building. The landscaping will include an outdoor bench to the south side of the building as well. As mentioned, the overlay calls for a 10-foot landscape buffer on the northern property boundary consisting of one large deciduous tree, 3 medium evergreen trees, and 1 small ornamental tree for every 75 feet of buffer yard. This was proposed and included within that amendment and overlay to provide an enhanced buffer to the edge of the Ladera development to the north. So that would be impacting this portion here. Next, we'll just briefly go into the elevations utilizing stone veneer along the base of the building. They are also using EIFS material, which is shown in the beige. Corten metal siding throughout, both vertical and horizontal there in the orange. And then there will also be, as I mentioned, a mix of translucent glass and then also spandrel glass that would conceal the storage units behind them. So this would show the elevation to the south along Sweatsville Road. This would be along the east where there's internal garage openings for larger sites. The north elevation and the west elevation along Weitzel Street. Again, flat roofed design that would also conceal any mechanical units along on top of the roof of this as well. So that was meeting the requirements of code and concealing those. So I'd like to amend slightly the recommendation here. So staff is recommending approval of the Ladera storage site plan. I would like to add a condition to that. One that is in there already to allow staff to work with the applicant to work on minor modifications or unresolved comments prior to final signatures. And then secondly, that the site plan approval is contingent on the council's approval of the use itself for this site. With that, I will turn it over to the applicant team and they can share a little more.
Hang on a second. Yeah, if you want to, something you need to ask staff, if it's
It's
something
staff or-
that the applicant needs to present, but go ahead.
Well, he just mentioned that the site plan, the contingency he wants to put in is the site plan approval by the council. I thought he said that we still approve the site plan and all council will be doing is approving the use.
That is correct.
Conditional use.
However, if there were to be an identified scenario from council that they felt there needed to be additional conditions set onto this, that would then need to be reflected in the site plan itself. But you are effectively approving this site plan as it is today or with that condition.
Meaning to Renzo's apparently excellent point, they're strictly reviewing and potentially approving the conditional use.
That is correct. Not
Okay.
the site plan, just the use itself.
Okay, good. Renzo, good. All right. With that, there's a graphic there of a little person talking. Turn that on so that,
There we go.
There you go.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
thank you.
Yes. Well, hello. My name is Stephen Crawford, and on behalf of Jordan Architects and Ventana Capital, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present this project located at 4882 Weitzel Street. Before I begin, just want to give a little background on Jordan Architects. So Jordan Architects is an architecture firm located in Southern California. We specialize in self-storage facilities. We've done over 5,000 facilities worldwide and have won numerous design awards for our facilities. So jumping in, I want to take a look at the satellite image here. You can see we're located at the intersection of Whitesell Street and Sweatsville Zoo Road. We have an entrance at the lower east, southeast corner of the lot and an exit at the northwest corner of the lot. So jumping into a project overview, this is in the regional commercial zone with a PD overlay. It is a 3-story building, 103,205 square feet. The allowable FAR is 1.55. We are below that at 1.33. The required parking is 5 spaces. We are currently providing 10 spaces, including 1 ADA space, and those are highlighted on the presentation. We are also required to have 4 loading spaces. They are required to be 10 by 50, and we are providing 4 spaces. In addition, the proposed building will be fully sprinklered and secured with fencing and cameras. So jumping into the code, the proposed building complies with the Timnath Land Use Code and the Ladera PD overlay. Self-storage is a conditionally permitted use in the regional commercial zone. The proposed self-storage facility fully aligns with the conditional use standards outlined in the Timnath Land Use Code as demonstrated below. Firstly, units are restricted to storage use only. No other occupancy or business activity is permitted. Only the leasing office will be used for operational needs. Secondly, all tenant storage is fully enclosed within the building. All drive aisles and parking areas are paved with concrete or asphalt, meeting code requirements. And there are no parking areas proposed for the storage of boats, recreational vehicles, or similar vehicles. In addition to this, I want to point out that the proposed self-storage facility generates minimal traffic and noise compared to other commercial uses. So next off, we have a rendering here. This is from Sweatsville Zoo Road. This is a shot of the office. As you can see, we're using a lot of high-end materials. We are using Corten metal siding. We're using stone at the base of the walls, and then we're using ephes as well. We're sticking with earth tones. And I wanted to point out that we are using spandrel glass for all of the windows except for the office area. So the office will have some transparent windows, but all the other windows that you see are spandrel, which means they're not transparent. You can't see through them, and you won't be able to see inside any of the units or the hallways. Next up, this is a view from Whitesell Street. This is from the roundabout. We added a lot of articulation here, and again, to use a lot of high-end materials because we really wanted to make this facade pop since it's right there on Whitesell Street, and we'll get a lot of traffic. And with that, I will pass it back to you and see if there's any questions I can answer. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We're going to first open it up to public comment. Is there anybody wishes to offer? Oh, you want to add something now? By all means.
Hey, good evening. My name is Steve Weens. I'm with the firm Stack Lot, and we work with the master developer on the overall project of Ladera. And on this project, we're serving as landscape architect. Chad did a really good job of presenting our landscape plan, but like he said, we have 16 trees. It's 16 trees required. We're planting over 44 trees. We also are required to do 103 shrubs on this project, and we're almost tripling that. We're complying with the buffer requirements to the north, as Chad explained, and also providing buffering on the east to the open space. Trees along Whitesell Street and Sweatsville Zoo Road we planted in a rhythm, and then we're using shrubs to highlight the articulation of the building. Just on a personal note, working on this project this particular project for the last 2 years, but Ladera development for the past 4 to 5 years. It was fun to see this project go from conception through this stage and to see the DRC, the Design Review Committee, and also working with town staff to get a quality storage project. With that, we're here to answer any questions. We also have Troy Keltz, civil engineer with Galloway Romero, and the owner of the project. Thank you for your time.
Okay, team, sit tight here for a moment. Is there anybody who wishes to offer public we're opening public comment now on this site plan. Is there anybody here who wishes to offer public comment? All right, then we'll close the public comment on this. And commissioners, now questions for the Ladera Storage team.
So, if I may,
Sure.
I think the landscaper answered my question. One of the concerns I had is beautiful building. I think it is very nice. However, it's got the large garage style openings on two of the areas. Is that going to be shielded by your landscape?
Yeah, so the garage entrances, the exterior garage entrances are on the north and the east. The north, as Chad mentioned, when we went through planning commission with PD overlay amendment number 2, we amended the code to provide a 10-foot buffer, and then planning commission actually amended the code further to provide the requirements of 3 evergreen trees, 3 shade trees, and 1 ornamental tree per 75 feet. We've also put an understory of planting in there, so it'll be extremely shielded. The east buffer, we've worked with staff and we're doing deciduous shade trees in that location, more so than evergreen trees. And one of the reasons is that we have open space that goes all the way to County Road 5. And that open space is quite a ways away. So your viewpoint, your vantage to see this building will be from a distance. And so working with staff, we felt we'd have better screening by utilizing shade trees.
And then one other question, not landscaping related. The packet mentioned about the dumpster on the inside, but it made it sound like that was only for staff purposes, and it didn't sound like it was used for the people. Where are they going to put their dump if they have stuff to dump?
Steve.
Yeah, so standard procedure for our self-storage facilities is to only provide trash for the employees. The tenants, they're not meant to throw away anything that they're storing. This is strictly a place for them to store their items. It's not a place for them to throw any of their stuff away.
Michael?
No, I think.
Marty?
So just a quick question. On the setbacks, I was a little bit confused. In the staff report, it was 39 feet from the street, but on the applicant's section, it says 21 and 13/16. Are they just different points of reference?
Yeah, I believe that was a different reference when that was included. The requirement was 20 feet on all portions of this site for setbacks.
Okay. And no other differences or variances?
There's not.
Okay. So last thing I'd say is, as Grant would know, is that I had high expectations of the building, and those were met.
Anything else there? I'd echo that, Grant, team and the team there. We went into this process 2 years ago. We heard some public that they thought this was a slab-sided, ugly building, and I suspect it would have ended up being this attractive, and also matching some of the metal, some of the. It's consistent so far with what we have seen come before us here throughout Ladera. So I think it's a nice design element, but I suspect it would have ended up attractive anyway. But I echo, it has exceeded my expectations. So our compliments. A couple other questions. I don't think there's an issue here, but the drive-through as people come in and drop off things, any staff, you're comfortable with the ingress, egress, the process of people coming and parking and dropping things off in the loading area?
Yeah, we were comfortable with what was provided, given the limited use and traffic that is generated by some of these uses. And so staff has reviewed that, both planning and engineering, and felt that that was sufficient, what was being proposed.
Very good. And I also echo, we always like, particularly with landscaping, we like exceed. Love that word. So do appreciate that very much. So So commissioners, Janelle, anything, any questions or otherwise? Throwing a lot at you here. I know that this was complicated. Anything else? Last call.
I've got a couple. What's going to be the total number of units?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I can get that for you though.
Okay.
I'll
And
get that.
historically, with the 5,000 previous units that you've built, on a building this size, what do you estimate traffic flow to be per hour, per day?
Very minimal. I'm going to guess about maybe 20, 25 people a day. Very minimal. There will probably be only 2 or 3 people there at once. So not much.
And again, as everyone said, it looks like a great building.
Thank you.
Be an asset to the town.
Thank you.
Staff, anything else? Carolyn, anything? No? Okay. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion on business item 6A, the Ladera Storage Site Plan.
Motion to approve item 6A, Ladera Storage Site Plan with staff condition to work with the applicant on minor issues.
Do I have a second?
Do we want the exact wording?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so this, for the second condition, it was that the site plan was contingent on council's approval of the use of a self-storage facility on this site.
Mhm. Okay. I-
Eh.
And the first one, do you need the exact wording there?
I think that would be beneficial, yeah.
Okay. Can you give me the exact?
I certainly can.
My memory is good, but not that good. Okay, so first condition allows staff to work with the applicant to address minor issues, non-substantive modification, and unresolved comments prior to final signatures.
Carolyn, town attorney, is that sufficient? Make sure we're very clear on the motion before us.
Yeah, can you just clarify, does that also include the second condition that Chad
And
read
the
as well?
second condition that this goes to council for approval of the conditional use.
We're good? All right, everybody's clear on that. All right, we have that motion. I need a second. We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Welcome to Timnath, Ladera Storage. All right, we move on now to business item 6B, the GQ Barbecue Site Plan. Chad, this is also you.
All right. So item 6B is for the consideration of a development site plan application for GQ Barbecue. The applicant is GQ Barbecue, represented by Jeff Mark and Katie Benz with Terracina Design. The owner is Connell LLC. The subject property is Lot 2, Block 1 of the Ladera subdivision second filing. This is referred to as 4931 Sima Vista Drive. The parcel is located west of Whitesell Street and to the south of Harmony Road. The adjacent land uses to the north is regional commercial within the Ladera subdivision. As you may recall, that is the site of the In-N-Out. To the south, it is vacant within the Ladera subdivision. The east is Floor and Decor, and to the west is the interstate. This aligns with the same procedures. This is a permitted use for a restaurant, so this will be the final stop where Planning Commission can make the approve with conditions, or deny the site plan. We've already touched on the review criteria. This is within the same zoning district and comprehensive plan designation. The site plan proposal is for a 3,995 square foot restaurant with drive-through located on a 1.12 acre site. Again, the Ladera subdivision plan development overlay amendment number 2 outlines and entitles the development of approximately 48 acres, including this property. The proposed building is located along the western boundary of the lot, fronting I-25 with parking and drive aisles oriented to the east of the building with access to the site from Sima Vista Drive. This site plan features a building setback of approximately 176 feet from that private drive. The single-story building incorporates a mix of materials, including stucco, brick, wood board cladding, and perforated Corten metal panels. The plan development overlay allows the use of weathering steel, such as that Corten, but limits its application to no more than 50% of the visible exterior. The site was designed with one access point, as I mentioned, to Sima Vista Drive. A single drive aisle runs along the western property line, facilitating a pickup window with stacking capacity for approximately 7 vehicles, preventing overflow into the parking lot and the drive aisle itself. So it has been determined at this time that the window would be for pickup use only. The applicant may have additional commentary on that, not for a drive-through ordering, just for the pickup within the site as proposed. 36 parking spaces are provided, exceeding the 32 required by code, including 2 electric vehicle charging spaces and 2 ADA accessible spaces. Pedestrian connection is proposed from Sima Vista, crossing the parking lot with striped crossings and sidewalk connections to the building's entry. The open space requirement is met with the inclusion of an outdoor patio proposed along the southern side of the building and site landscaping. Approximately 15,000 square feet of the lot is covered by a rock mulch planting bed with sufficient plant materials that adhere to the town's landscaping standards for commercial development. Additionally, 2,900 square feet of interior landscaped area is provided within the parking lot, as well as 160 shrubs, 26 trees, and 129 grasses and perennials. I do want to point out that the site does include a utility easements along the north and west boundaries of the site, allowing for the underground utility services. These easements have limited the available perimeter planting space for the required deciduous trees per code that are required within 10 feet of the site's perimeter. Due to that, the utility providers request to avoid conflicts from roots and damages to their utility lines. The applicant has proposed to increase the shrub requirement at a rate of 6 plantings to 1 tree required along the western boundary. So it's still maintaining the coverage and fulfilling the intent and buffering and screening the site. However, it is just not meeting that requirement for the trees, but we do have the ability within code to include additional shrubs to meet that requirement. So these are just the elevations that we have proposed. Incorporating a mix of building materials. This would be the east, and so the entry to the building, having brick, stucco, the vertical wood element on the site. The north incorporates the steel that would then shield and screen the mechanical units to the top, along with brick along the base of the building. The south would incorporate some additional window treatments and have an awning. So brick and stucco being the main components here. And then the west facade, this incorporates the Corten steel, the board cladding, and the stucco elements within that. So staff has reviewed the proposed development site plan and found it to be in compliance with the review criteria and design standards of the code and technical criteria manual. However, staff did raise a concern that the building design, specifically the limited use of glazing on this along the western facade, could impact the visual variation and transparency of the building itself. This was noted in my response to item or criteria H within your staff report. So we requested to the applicant that more glazing on the west elevation be included. Staff's feeling was that this modification could improve the contextual unity within the development, the region's developments, and adding glazing to the building would enhance both the aesthetic appeal but the functionality of the use itself by providing visual transparency and alignment with surrounding developments regionally. As you may know, the Ladera Plan Development Overlay Amendment Number 1 eliminated the requirement that retail facades provide what was required to be minimum of 30% glazing to the first story. However, the strict application to that overlay from staff's perspective did have concerns that it could create a box-like appearance in articulation to the building elevation where there is high visibility along the interstate. I would like to point out, though, that this is not a condition of approval recommended by staff, rather just our interpretation of the criteria for your consideration of review of this site plan. With that, I will turn it over to the applicant.
All right, is it working all right? Sounds like it is. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jeff Mark. I'm with Terracina Design. We are the planners, landscape architects, and civil engineers for this GQ barbecue. I also have Brian Unger here, who is the architect for the project, and then also Jason. So if you want to come on up, I think we're going to start it. Jason does a great job of talking about his barbecue and how it came about and how this started. Figured that'd be a great way to start this. So.
Thank you, Commission. It's nice to be here. Thank you for the time to talk about GQ and barbecue with you all. I joked around. We did a brief call this morning. I joked around and I was curious how much time I had to speak to you guys about GQ. I said I have a 5-minute, a 10-minute, a 20-minute version. What amount of time would you guys like me to spend talking about this?
If you can, first of all, Jason, what's your last name?
It's Ganal, G-A-N-A-H-L.
I would say if you can say what you would say in 20 minutes and 5 minutes, that's fine.
You
We'll
got it.
certainly ask questions
You got it. I'll talk
accordingly.
fast.
If not,
And I also apologize for being late. I thought we started at 7, and if I knew we started at 6 and I was going to walk in here in the middle of it, I would have brought samples too. So sorry for that too. GQ barbecue. A lot of times people think GQ. What does that mean? Do you think you're Brad Pitt when you get up there and serve barbecue? And that's not the case at all. My last name is Ganal, so the G stands for Ganal, and Q is barbecue. So GQ together is where we get the name GQ barbecue. I came to Colorado about 17 years ago. I'm originally born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. And out there in St. Louis, we have barbecue on every corner, kind of like we have taco shops here in Colorado. So I ate barbecue all the time. I loved it. I was an athlete. It was a protein. It tasted good, and it kept me fueled and full of energy. And I came to Colorado, and I was looking for a place to scratch the barbecue itch, and I would go online, and I stumbled across this group called the KCBS. Does anybody know what that is? It's an acronym for Kansas City Barbecue Society, and they put on professional contests all over the country. And I saw they had one coming to Dillon, Colorado, and it was in the middle of June, and I circled it on the calendar, and I went up there, and about 2 minutes in, I knew this was where I needed to be. There was a barbecue aroma in the air, which is fantastic, which I know most of us would all agree smells delicious. There was music, live music. There was smiles on everyone's faces walking around. A couple thousand people enjoying just the beautiful environment of the mountains and the deliciousness of barbecue and cold beverages out there. And I was like, this is a group I got to become a part of. It scratched all the things I itch and yearn for. I love the community. The barbecue community is very welcoming. bunch of friendly people. This is where I'm getting confused if I want to go the 20-minute or the 5-minute version right here. But what they do is they put on professional barbecue contests, and that's essentially what it is. It's a festival along with a professional barbecue contest. I went over to a vendor's, and I took a bite of his ribs. I bought a rib from him, and it was the best rib I ever had in my life. And so later on that day, I went back and I looked and I saw where he placed, and there was about 80 teams, and he placed 65th or so right in there. And I thought, holy moly, if that's the best rib I ever had, and that guy placed 65th, I have no business ever competing in one of these contests. So I became a judge, and I judged these professional barbecue events for about 3 years. And after judging for about 3 years, I got to see a lot of entries. I got to taste a lot of food, but most importantly, I got to think how judges think. I got to know them really well. I got to understand what they're looking for. And then I decided to compete. So I competed for about 5 years, and I got my butt kicked for the first 2 years, but I didn't stop. I kept going all over, and I won 9 state 30 contest team of the year in 2014. I think if you asked any competition barbecue cook, who's the most dominant competition barbecue cook in the Mountain Time Zone, 10 out of 10 back in 2013 and 2014 would say GQ Barbecue. And I also subscribe. Do you guys know who Lou Holtz is? Old football coach for Notre Dame. So Lou Holtz says that if you ever have to tell somebody how good you are, you're not that good to begin with. So granted, I know you guys aren't super familiar with KCBS. When I asked about it earlier, go ahead and tell you that. So having won at a high level, I was then invited to go to these invitational contests. So I would get invited to go compete with the top 20, the top 25 pit masters from all over the country. I would be the only one invited from the Mountain Time Zone. So anywhere from like Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, South, North Dakota, Wyoming, I was the only competition team that would get invited there. And while we're standing around, there's a lot of standing around and a lot of talking at these professional barbecue contests. I got to know a lot of these other competitors, and about half of them had barbecue restaurants. And I'd worked in restaurants my entire youth, from 13 all the way up to 24. And I had always kind of thought they're very difficult. They're hard to do. And these guys were very successful in the cities, and they lived, traditional barbecue towns like Nashville, Austin, St. Louis, Kansas City, all the places that you associate barbecue with is where these guys lived. And they had these great places. And after doing this for a year or two and competing with them, I thought, if these guys can figure it out, why can't I figure it out? And so that's what led me to opening the first GQ Barbecue, which this November will be 10 years in Westminster, Colorado. And since then, we've opened up a location in Lone Tree, Colorado, where I live now. We've opened up a location in Lakewood, Colorado. We have 3 locations inside Empower Field, where the Broncos play. We have 2 locations in Coors Field, where the Rockies play. And then we have 2 locations at Folsom Field, where the Buffaloes play. I would love to get a location over here where the Rams play, but we're super excited to take what is Colorado's only championship barbecue, and nationally renowned. I mean, you can go to our website, you can see a lot of our accolades. We get awards and press not only from the local media in Denver, but we're nationally recognized. We participate in national barbecue festivals. And I'm super excited to bring it to Timnath and Fort Collins, which I love the area up here. It's a beautiful area. And I think the people up here are really going to enjoy what the people down in Denver already enjoy. So did I go over? Is that 5 minutes? How am I doing on time?
Close enough.
Okay.
I must say, though, I'm sorry you can't be more enthusiastic about your product.
I'll tone it down. Sorry.
All right. We have nobody here to offer public comment.
If you want, we're going to touch on, I think there's not.
Oh,
a
you have
whole-
some additional information.
We
Okay,
do
yeah,
have
by
a
all
few more
means.
slides here, but I'm not as
Okay.
enthusiastic. Geez, now I feel like
All right,
it's hard to follow.
it made me very hungry.
Really what we have up here is just a colored version of the plans that Chad was just presenting to you, and Chad did a great job of, I think, covering just about every item. So I don't think there's a whole lot to go over. Other than we've definitely been working hard with staff over the last year on a lot of small details and going through every little detail here to create, I think, the best site plan we can for this site. The intent is, and I know, Chad, you brought up about the not order window. I think something to bring up is that this is going to be GQ's first standalone site too. So this is a little bit new to you in the standalone site aspect of it. All the other ones were more in inline retail locations. And so with this, the plan is that there's going to be an app that you can go, and I think that's still the plan, is to kind of have an app that you order on.
We have that now. So 60% of our food is consumed off premise. So we have a lot of people.
If you want to come back up to the microphone,
that'll
but
be
be
the
very,
recording
be
for
very
you.
brief about that, if you would,
Yeah,
please.
so
Because there's
we're-
thousands of
yeah, yeah.
people out there listening in, I'm sure.
Okay. Hi, everybody, whoever you're listening in. We're opening a location right now in Thornton, Colorado, where we have a very similar build out with a drive-through. And our thought is, since 60% of our food is consumed off premise, of that 60%, about 13% is catering. The rest of it is a variety of third-party deliveries or just pickup or takeout. We think that a drive-through will make that experience easier for people because they can go on the app and they can order. And then right now, we already text them when their order is ready. So they get notified that it's ready, that rather than going and parking in their car, particularly in those inline centers that Jeff was talking about, and walking a long way and fighting through parking, they can just roll through the drive-through. It makes it an easy process. So we're super excited to try that both at the Thornton location and then at this location also.
Right, thank you. Jeff, back to you.
Back to me. All right. So we just have a couple of 3D models here, elevations of the building. So this is looking from kind of the northeast, looking at the front entry. And then off there on the right-hand side, you could see the smokers, which are, I guess you could say, almost partially screened. They have wire mesh around them to keep people out. But part of the experience of this is that when you're coming through the driveway, you want to be able to see the smokers, see it actively being cooked right there, smell the smoke coming out of it. So that's what you see over there on the right-hand side. This is the elevation from the northwest, more from the I-25 side, looking at it again, seeing those smokers on the left-hand side there with the tall vertical element with the GQ signage. It'll be over there facing towards I-25. And then this elevation is looking more, I guess technically it's more from the south looking at it. Again, looking at the front entry and then the outdoor patio space for people to enjoy their dining on outside, kind of on that south face of the building. So with that, thank you. And now we open it for questions for you.
Very good. All right. I don't believe there's anybody here offering public comment. So we're opening now. We'll close the public comment and commissioners' questions for Jeff, Jason, et al.
I've got a question.
Use your mic if you
Can
would.
you show,
Mike, thank you.
can you show where In-N-Out Burger is going to be related to the building?
Yep. All right. So right here, you can see it's just to be directly to the north
Oh.
where it says In-N-Out right there.
I missed it.
Nope, that's fine.
So my comment was, and it was more of a question, and I think you guys answered it all, which I was happy to hear. We already know In-N-Out's going to generate a lot of drive-through traffic.
Yes.
So my concern or my question is, have we done adequate traffic management? I know you're only going to have up to 7 cars, and you said, I like the idea with the app and being able to pre-order and all that. Will we have any issues with congestion, having them back to back like that and both offering a drive-through capability?
Yeah, so I can answer that from staff's perspective. So they are meeting the requirements of code for the stacking based on conversations with the applicant team, understanding that the design is to have it as an ordering station that you would be referenced by text when it is ready to be picked up. It would not lend itself to having a large stalling of cars that would back into that when normally you would have the ordering windows. That was part of the thought process from staff, ensuring that the stacking was adequate. Additionally, the orientation within the site plan lends itself to allow for parking or additional drive aisles to accommodate the projected traffic within the site.
And the reason why I'm asking as well is, we know that they're starting out, it's pickup only. But if they want to go to be able to do ordering, what would change? Just a what if?
Yeah, so even if it were to change to a model that utilized a ordering window, they are still exceeding the requirement for the stacking of the window itself. So staff feel that there is adequate stacking, sufficient stacking to accommodate that, regardless of use type.
And if you want, there's one other thing I'd like to add to it is that I know when we first started looking at this site, that was one of our concerns because I think it's probably more of a concern for GQ of access being blocked, right?
Right.
Because I have an in and out, the one in Thornton right by my house. And so you see what happened, especially when it first opened. But so that was something we looked at this initially, and that is the main reason the access is on the far south end on this site. We pushed it as far south away from in and out as we could possibly get. So for that exact reason.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Marty?
So Chad, I'm assuming you brought up the glazing on the west side, and I'm assuming you brought it up, there's no resolution that you got to on that?
Yes, so we did convey that to the applicant team. They wish to move forward with the design that is current for your approval here today. So there was no resolution from staff's comment to include more additional glazing.
Okay, is there a reason?
Yeah, and I may have, if we want Brian or Grant to go to this a little bit more, I think as he's been diving into, since he's the architect and has been diving into all that and working through all the numbers and.
My name is Brian Unger, architect with Frontline Design. We certainly examined transparency on all four sides. A little difficult with a restaurant because in this situation, we have a kitchen and a restroom facing that highway. Therefore, transparency is not quite an option. We definitely tried to maximize the interest on that facade using materials and really trying to focus on being a presence to the highway there. We did increase the size of the pickup window there a little bit, but when all was said and done, the Ladderna requirements were met without any further fake glazing on this facade, and we felt it didn't necessarily contribute to the concept that GQ is of being that bolder primary kind of massing statement, as well as introducing a fourth or fifth material on the facade that we didn't believe contributed to the aesthetic.
Okay, well, it makes sense that there's something, obviously you don't want a window into the restroom. What about the front has windows on the second tier? Did you look at that at all?
Is it this way? This guy?
Yeah.
Correct. So we do have the clear stories there going into the dining room area. Everything to the far side of that window is back of house and restroom space. So we wouldn't actually be able to get any physical transparency there.
Yeah. What about articulation? Just something to break up that big white space.
Well, we do have quite a bit of plantings there. We think, at 70 miles an hour, we didn't want to distract too much from our kind of focal point there with the signage. So we did work with staff, including a little bit more brick, as well as the changes in the plane of the facade there. And we did look at, fake windows there. We just didn't feel it contributed to the overall design.
What, Chad, Scott, you guys have been with this. We're just seeing it in the packet. Is there any suggestions that you had with this?
Yeah, so we have we've made several comments with the applicant team on the elevation. So they've worked with us to tone down some of the material changes within it. So they were able to work with us to kind of scale it back a little bit to where it was a less busy design. So they were willing to work with us on some of these items. We did also bring up the suggestion, as you mentioned, of a clear story window or the articulation or placement of some form of glazing, whether it be transparent or not. They did work with us to provide additional brick along the base of this elevation, so they were able to accommodate that request, but still had concerns with the portion of this, even with the awnings. In the prominent location, we felt that there was a need for an additional breakup, and one being glazing that could facilitate.
Which on the bottom portion really isn't practical, given that it's back of house and restrooms.
Yeah, based on the conversations we've had, understanding that what is going on behind those walls may not lend itself to a full transparency.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm struggling with this one of, okay, if you don't have any suggestions.
I'll chime in though here, not to move it along as much as, there has been compromise. Appreciate that. That's always our, something we're seeking. Glad that it happened before it got to us. Sounds like there was, with the additional brick, toning down, in your words, the design element. I'm not terribly wedded to the window idea for a couple reasons. Obviously the fact that it is, as you mentioned, the restrooms and such, and I understand your suggestion about up higher windows. People are driving by it, as you said, 70, 75 miles an hour. I'm not particularly concerned about that. I don't know that anybody's ever going to go by there at that speed. I'd like to think they're not looking over there and saying, gosh, I wish there were some windows on that side. So I don't know if you all have a stronger feeling about it, but I would not take a stand.
I
on this.
concur with you, Phil. And what's probably more important than the glazing on the building is the landscaping that surrounds the building on the outside, on that side. Even though they're driving by 75, you still want that whole area, running from them all the way along, to look nice and to say, hey, this is a nice place to come into, a welcoming. And I think as long as that's maintained, then the other we could, and like you said, they made some compromises, should be sufficient.
And I concur with your addition. The landscaping, to me, trumps the windows in terms of attractiveness. Commissioners,
I've got a couple others.
by all means.
On the smokers, I can recognize the idea of wanting to be able to see them. I mean, the smell is probably more important than the sight, but it looks like there's semi-translucent things there. I mean, we don't want it to look just like a box is what I guess I'm saying. So
Sure.
is there something that at least covers it a little bit?
Well, the smokers are actually very attractive. We have a need for security though, so we're trying to walk a line of showing those off because they're really almost like a trophy for the concept.
Got it.
So we've tried to provide that level of security without totally diminishing those because they're I think they're good looking and they're very representative of the bold kind of clean concept that GQ is.
Okay. So they're more than just a box. is
Yeah.
what you're
Oh, yeah.
saying.
I mean, they're stainless steel. You've got, some wood going in and out and smoke. And we do this on the outside for a reason. We could put them inside, but we're trying to show them off to just show that authenticity, right? Because a lot of places that you go get barbecue, they're not smoking their own meat. So anyone who drives by those will immediately understand, this is the real thing.
Okay. And then my last question regarding this is the colors of the building. And I look at the Ladera stuff that's been being proposed to us and all that. It seems like there's there's been a standard color and schema in that. How does this fit into that? Or is this your logo branding? colors or what?
Actually, we stuck pretty close to the Laderna guidelines as far as the Corten metal panel, the darker brick. We started out with a much more metal panel look, but pulled that back, working with the planning and went with more of the stucco, which again is a material recommended in those guidelines. And then we started to soften things up. I'd say if anything is our brand, it's this combination of brick with a little bit of an organic move, but in a clean, bold massing.
Okay, thank you. That's all I.
Michael?
Yeah, just as a vegan, I'm wondering, are there any options? That's my contribution to April Fools.
Very good.
No.
I was waiting for somebody to say that. I would have if you hadn't, but I understood. I already looked up the menu. Commissioners, other comments, genuine or otherwise? Janelle?
I have a few questions. So with the smokers, it looks like the stacks are pretty tall. I'm wondering if there's any concerns with nuisance smoke with, so in and out drive-through window will be across from that. Is there any concerns that it might fill up another building with smoke or that it could be run or tampered down at some point?
Yeah, so we smoke, the big proteins will go on about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and they'll cook to 10 in the morning. So that's when all of our smoking happens. So from about 11 o'clock till 6 p.m., there's really no smoking coming from our sites. So it shouldn't give off any of those aromas. But I personally, I'm obviously biased, but I think that adds character and adds a lot of, it's inviting to the space for people who are into the type of food that we're serving. In fact, I will say at our Lone Tree location, there's a steakhouse, there's a Perry Steakhouse right there. And, I hear from other people about how delicious Perry Steakhouse smells, and it's our smoke and we don't get credit for it. That's out there that makes it smell good. But.
All right, very good.
I thought you were going to say it was going to make people from In-N-Out.
And then the other question I had about the drive-through. So I like your idea about the making it only a pickup window, but I think that might need to teach some people how to use it that way. Do you have any ideas on how you plan to address that?
Yeah, so it's my opinion that that's pretty much where this market is going to. Brands like Chipotle have already been doing it for a couple of years, and there's other brands in Denver that are already doing it right now. So I do think it's going to take a little bit of time to train people. But we're doing this in our Thornton location. We plan on having somebody out front. If somebody pulls up and they think they can drive and say, no, this is a pickup only. Here's a parking spot right here. Here's, download the app and place an order if you'd like to come through and get it. But I think it's going to be much more commonly accepted in 2 or 3 years than it is right now. And in Denver, we see a lot of people already getting more comfortable with it. There's a Chick-fil-A up here. Chick-fil-A is encouraging people to do all the ordering through the app, and it's used as a pickup lane more so than an actual squawk box where you're talking into it. And I know the Chick-fil-A where we go, they're consistently incentivizing us to order through the app to use it as a pickup lane rather than ordering at the box. And I don't know if the one does it up here because they are all individually franchised owned by folks. But we're seeing that a ton down in Denver.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, commissioners, last call. All right, very good. Staff, anything else? Attorney, anything to add? No conditions? All right, very good.
I think we do have the standard condition of being able to make minor modifications.
Sure, yeah, thank you. Yes, I should say. Okay, very good. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion on business item 6B, the GQ barbecue site plan.
Motion to approve item 6B, GQ barbecue site plan with the standard condition of the staff working out. Oh, there it is. allow staff to work with the applicant to address minor non-substantive modifications and resolve unresolved comments prior to final signatures.
Sufficient staff, attorney? All right, very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Jason, welcome to Timnath.
Thank you very much.
Reports. Commissioners, anything to report?
I have a question. What, Busgrove is that gonna, what are they doing now? Oh, yeah.
So yeah, if you remember last year with the development, they did some water line extension and they didn't get it all the way because then the water district, the Fort Collins Level Water District was going to take that from that point, which they started, I don't know, maybe that was about a month ago, if that, and they should be complete here in the next week or two.
Okay. No
But yeah,
chance
that'll
that
bring the water line improvements all the way up to the tank. So that'll provide a lot greater service for the community through the South Loveland Water District.
No chance that the tower won't be needed anymore.
No, the tower will still be needed, just be able to
darn.
be used more efficiently.
All right.
Anybody else? Only thing I have to add is a week from Saturday, April 12th, is the Wild Wing Park grand opening from noon until 2. If you haven't been out there, it's another great step in our this town council's and staff's prioritization on parks and recreation. Another beautiful park, which I understand has other phases that could be added to it. So, and I also, as some of you know, I've agreed to run the pickleball play during the event from noon till 2 following the speeches. So looking forward to that, hoping the weather cooperates.
So should I bring my first place pickleball trophy
You
for
can
inspiration?
bring in, and given your injuries, I would say that's as close as your
Yeah.
wife is going to let you get
Yeah.
to pickleball from now on.
Cost me a surgery, but it was well worth it.
It's a very nice trophy though. You had to get that first place in. Staff, anything else? Anybody? Okay, very good.